Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Grant Arnott, and I'm the editor and publisher of Power Retail, and welcome to this special presentation on behalf of Power Retail together with Google called Google Shopping, How It Impacts Your Business. So our presenter today is Kate Conroy, Google product expert, and Google Shopping's been a hot topic since it, or even before it launched, but certainly since it launched on February 14th in Australia. Has big ramifications for all of the retail businesses in Australia. And so here's Kate now to take you through it all. As I've typed in, we'll have plenty of time for questions at the conclusion, and you can type those into the question box as well. And hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you, Grant, for that lovely introduction, and hello to everybody today. Thanks for taking time out of busy online retail schedules to attend this webinar. So today I'm going to be covering some kind of basics and also a full understanding of the changes that have come through for Google Shopping in the last few weeks and how those changes will continue to kind of roll out over the coming months. So our agenda for the webinar today, and we should take around about 30 minutes to get through the content. We're going to start out by just kind of going through the what is's. So what is Merchant Center? What are product listing ads, and what are the changes that are coming to Google Shopping? We'll go through Merchant Center and feed basics so you understand kind of what's going on behind Google Shopping, and then we'll talk specifically about product listing ads, which is how these kind of online retail information will be surfaced on Google going forward. So let's start with our first section. We'll go through what is Google Shopping, what is the Merchant Center, and what are product ads. So hopefully on your screen right now, what you can see is a screenshot of a Google search. In this case, the Google search is for a bagless vacuum cleaner. This is how Google looked until February 15. So this is kind of the old version, if you like, that most of you would have been familiar with. To break down what is on this screenshot, we have the organic shopping results, which were free traffic to retailers coming through these organic results. They were showing there under shopping results for bagless vacuum, and then also on the Google Shopping property, which is a separate property you would have got to by clicking on that link that says shopping on the left-hand side. We also have here in the ad section something called product extensions for ads, which are kind of unique deep links to individual products that this particular retailer has on their website. And then finally, over on the right-hand side, we have these things called product listing ads, which are those very engaging ads that feature a picture of the product. So that was the product as it stood until February 15. Some of you may still be seeing an experience on Google that looks like this. We're actually in the middle of the transition as we speak. So the next question is, what are we transitioning to? So this coming up on your screen now is the new version of what the shopping experience will look like going forward on Google. So again, in this instance, we have a search for a bagless vacuum cleaner. We can see those product extensions showing pretty much as they were before, but the new experience will feature the product listing ads. So rather than having a separate organic section and then a paid section, we're moving to a paid-only model going forward. So the product listing ads may appear on the right-hand side, as you can see now. And then coming up on your screen now should be an example of where they will show in those kind of top section. So when they do show, they have to take space from the ads that show currently in yellow, as they are a sponsored option. Product listing ads will also appear on google.com.au/shopping, and obviously as that's like a separate destination site, the experience looks a little different. So here, for example, you can see a selection of hats. At the moment, most of the traffic that retailers get coming from these product ads on Google come from the ones that show on the regular Google search results. But we do get some traffic from people coming specifically through to this destination site and looking, for example, for hats in this case. So a question I often get when we change anything at Google, which we tend to do a lot, is why are you making this change? So you can see here another example of the old version of the user interface, and we kind of had two user interfaces going. We had these product ads, and then again we had pictures, often the same situation going. And we found that users actually find it quite confusing, and it was leading to a high management overhead for advertisers. So our first step here, and it really is our first step, is to build that into a single product experience. So again, this is how it will look going forward. You can see we've actually made the images quite a bit larger, seeing as we've got the space to do it. The clicks through to retailers are paid clicks, and the results quality should be a lot better. We're constantly improving the algorithm to make sure we're triggering the most relevant products for a user's query. It will allow you to explore products by type. In the example here, you can see, for example, if somebody is interested in a backpacking tent versus a mountain tent, they can choose from the links below. And overall, we found this has resulted in a better user experience in our testing. In terms of the timeline that we'll be following, as Grant said, Feb 14, Feb 15 is when we began stopping showing those organic search results. We haven't actually completed that transition yet. So some people are still seeing the old version, some people are seeing the new version. It'll take us a couple more weeks to get through that. But for those people who have switched over, we've started showing that new commercial unit, so the one that you just saw before with the tents. And the product ads will be promoted on the shopping site, so google.com.au/shopping. We're also rolling out specific shopping policies now that we've made this. So for example, you will now be able to list things like wine on product listing ads. Come mid-April, we'll be making a slight update to the feed requirements, and I will talk more about feeds in a moment, but making a slight update to the feed requirements for Australia. So particularly if you're somebody who sells apparel, so shoes, clothing, accessories, any form of media, so DVDs, computer games, etc., or books, we will be requiring that you add an additional item to the feed that tells us what the product category is based on a taxonomy that Google has. April 12 will be the last day to have product listing ads live, so those product ads. If you have those live for 100% of your products, then you should be able to get a 10% rebate on any of your spend. So that was an important date to note. And then around June, we should complete the full migration to a paid shopping model based on those product listing ads. So it will take a while to kind of get through all of these changes. So once we've completed that, we're then in a great position to be able to launch a lot of new shopping features. So I'll talk more about those in the coming slides. Okay, let's take a little bit of a deep dive now into Google Merchant Center. So my understanding is there may be some folks who are joining us today who already have a Google Merchant Center account and are quite familiar with that environment, and for some folks that may be new. So we'll kind of take it from the beginning, as it were. So Google Merchant Center is the place where you upload the feed or the file of all your products so that Google can use them to display. It's located at google.com/merchants. And if you haven't got an account, you can just go there and create one. If you do have an account, you're probably pretty familiar with coming in here and uploading your feed or telling us how to upload your feed regularly if you're using that method. So Merchant Center is a place where once that data is in, you can use it for many things. So for example, you could use it for product listing ads, which is what we're talking about today. You could use it for product extensions, which are those little deep links on the ads that we also saw. And then there's also something else we won't be covering today in detail called Google Commerce Search, which is sort of like site search for retailers. And again, that's based on a Merchant Center feed. So as we continue to launch more Google products in this space, we expect all of them to be based on merchant center data. So we're trying to make sure that you only have to kind of give us your data once, and then you should be able to leverage as many Google products as possible based on that data feed. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what a merchant center feed actually looks like, there's several ways that you can give us the data. I guess the most simple or human readable version, as it were, is actually something that just looks like an Excel spreadsheet. So each column of the spreadsheet is what we call an attribute. So for example, title of the item is an attribute. So if the product is called a 7-foot surfboard, Minnie Mouse style, then that is the title for that particular item. Understanding the attributes in a feed becomes important because when we move on to talk about product listing ads and how to set them up, you're able to do things like break down how you show your ads, or for example, which bids you put on particular products based on what's in the feed and what product attributes are in there. So that's why understanding this concept is important. When it comes to uploading data to Merchant Center, there's several ways to do it, depending on, for example, the size of your inventory and the level of your technical sophistication. So the easiest way is to just manually upload a spreadsheet, similar to the one that you just saw, into the Merchant Center. Please note that if you choose this method, you need to upload that data at least once per month. So if you upload it one time and then just never come back, after 30 days, we'll actually stop showing your products on Google. The second method, which is probably the most popular method, I think probably the majority of our retailers currently use this one, is to use something called a scheduled fetch. So in that case, you would create a file that could be a text file, or it could be an XML file, for example, containing all of your products. And you basically regularly upload it to a place and tell us to check that place regularly. So Google would come along, say, every day and pick up that new file automatically. So scheduled fetch, definitely probably the most popular option that we have. And then finally, if anyone's really advanced, we have something called the Google Content API for shopping. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. It's basically just a way to have computers kind of talk to each other in a specific way. Typically, the folks we have who are using the API tend to be guys who have a very large inventory and also have prices that change multiple times in one day. So at that point, we're starting to talk about a very, very large volume of data, and so the API tends to be the best option if that's your situation. Probably one of the top questions I get is about optimizing feeds, optimizing Merchant Center feeds in order to improve performance. So here is my 5 top tips for optimizing your feed. Start with updating your feed regularly as soon as anything changes on your site. So for example, if you change the price of an item on your website, then we would like to reflect that correct price as soon as possible through Google Shopping. So keep that information up to date. The second thing is to submit as much information about each product as you can, including high quality images, around about 400 by 400 pixels. That's particularly so for apparel. Consumers are pretty fussy when they buy apparel, and they really like to be able to kind of see that item in detail. So including things in the title and description, like specifying whether this t-shirt is men's or women's, for example, the brand, what color it is, and the size, that's all very helpful. It also helps to use clear titles and descriptions based on your website. So, specify if something is a t-shirt rather than just calling it a shirt, or specify if something is, say, a flannel sheet versus a percale sheet, and so on. We do get people quite often reporting that they have an issue and we're not crawling their site successfully. Typically, that's due to a no robots tag. So if your site is blocking the Google robot from crawling, usually to pick up the images of your products, then that may be causing an issue. And finally, we have some editorial guidelines. They're mostly the kind of things you would expect, like not writing your descriptions all in capital letters, not putting 5 exclamation marks after everything, that kind of stuff. So stick to the editorial guidelines when you're creating all of that information in the feed. I wanted to deep dive a little bit into the new feed requirements. These will come in around mid-April. So for everybody who's doing a Google Merchant Center feed, you'll need to include the availability of the item. So whether it's in stock, available for order, out of stock, or a pre-order item. I know pre-order is very popular with the guys who sell books. You also need to include 2 out of 3 of what we call unique product identifiers. So that might be the brand of the item, the barcode number, or for books, the ISBN number, or the manufacturer's part number. So any 2 out of those 3. So for example, the brand and the barcode number is probably the most popular combination for retailers. If you sell apparel or accessories or media or books, you'll need to include the Google product category from the middle of April. So if you're unfamiliar with Google product categories, just try searching for Google Merchant Center help and then check under the feed specification and you'll find more information on it. But it's basically like a taxonomy of categories. You can see an example there for computer books. So you'll need to specify that. And that's going to help us show, for example, those links you saw before where it had the different kinds of tents. So for all of that, see the Merchant Center help section for more information on those feed changes. And if you're already someone who has a Google Merchant Center account, we'll be sending out more information over email as well. All right, so what's kind of coming for Google Shopping and ads? This probably feels like a big change for a lot of people, this kind of move to a paid model. We're actually doing this so that we can launch additional features in future. So for us, this is kind of just the big first step, but we actually have a lot more things that we'd like to do. If you follow the news media, you might have seen some of these words showing up. So in the US, where we're kind of, let me think, probably about 10 months ahead in this cycle in the US compared to where we are now, we're launching some things. For example, we have a shopper app that's based on, again, Google Shopping. We're doing some things integrating with Google Wallet and Google Offers for merchants who have special offers that are available. And we've also launched something called Trusted Stores, which allows particularly kind of the smaller and medium-sized retailers to give a good indication to shoppers of, for example, do they have reliable shipping and good customer service. So for most of these, we don't have a launch date for Australia planned yet, but obviously we would like to bring as many of these features and more to Australia as we go forward, probably over the next 18 months or so. So stay tuned for more cool things coming. You can expect more information, for example, around local shopping data. So being able to kind of tell people which of their local stores has availability, and more launches related to integrating with Google Offers and Google Wallet. We're working on making the shopping experience really amazing on both mobile and tablet, and also integrating it better with Google+, which is kind of the social spine that sits behind a lot of Google products. So if you want to stay up to date with these things as they launch, I highly recommend signing up to get the Google Commerce blog sent directly to your inbox. So if you open up another tab and search for the Google Commerce blog, you'll see a little bar that slides out from the right-hand side where you can enter your email address and sign up to have that come straight into your inbox. Okay, so now that we've talked about Merchant Center, which is the place where you tell Google all of your products, I'd like to talk specifically about product listing ads. So this is the, I guess, the paid model that Google will be going with now, is to display all of those products via product listing ads on Google. So firstly, just a quick clarification between product extensions and product listing ads. If you're currently somebody who does standard search advertising on Google, you may be using these things called product extensions, which are those little deep links that you can see there for Volta and Bosch vacuum cleaners. Those are based on a Merchant Center feed, which you have connected to your Google advertising account. And they have about a 20% increase in the number of clicks that those ads get. But they are not our main focus for today. Our main focus is product listing ads, which are the ones that show with pictures underneath them. Again, they're based on the Merchant Center feed. And one of the main differences is that they are keywordless, in the sense that you don't have to specify the keywords, which is a great labor saving, but instead we choose the keywords that we will show them on based on what's in the feed. Product listing ads have a very comprehensive response from users. We find that they get about 2x the click-through rate compared to, say, a standard text ad that's showing in the same slot. So, if you're anything like me, you love to see pictures when you shop. We certainly see that borne out in the user response to these. Best practice is, of course, to use both if you can. We will be focusing mostly on product listing ads for the presentation today, but if you do also use AdWords, you can add those product extensions as well under the Extensions tab. So product listing ad visuals, again, starting mid-Feb, this is pretty much what they will look like. If you mouse over, say, one of those cameras there, a little tag here will pop up. You can see, for example, this one has lowest prices guaranteed under it. That's what we call promotional text, and it's a little bit of, I guess, extra promo that you can add to your product listing ad. The most popular thing to add there is something like, free shipping on orders over $100 or something like that. Product listing ads are different to regular search ads on Google, which you may have tried previously, in the sense that they are not keyword based. So regular search ads on Google, you actually specify a particular keyword that you would like your ads to show on. Whereas for product listing ads, we use something called product targeting. And in this case, the products that get shown are just chosen based on what's in the feed. So if you have, say, a Canon SD780 as one of the items in your feed, then we should automatically trigger that ad when somebody searches for something like Canon SD780. If you would like to set up product listing ads, it's actually very quick. It takes around about 5 minutes. So I'll just walk you through the steps here for those of you who are new to it. The first step would be to log into your Merchant Center account at google.com/merchants. Under the settings section, there is an AdWords section where you can enter an AdWords customer ID. So if you already have a Google advertising account, you would just put in the customer ID that you have already. If you are unfamiliar with Google advertising and that's something that's new to you, you'll see a button that lets you sign up for an account. If you don't have a Merchant Center feed already, you would need to prepare one and upload it into the Merchant Center. But if you do have a Merchant Center feed already, then you can just add the AdWords account to link it. The next step will take place within AdWords, so within the Google advertising account at google.com/AdWords. Within an AdWords account, you can create various advertising campaigns. So for product listing ads, we find most people like to set up a new campaign. And you would select a search campaign and choose product listing ads as the type of campaign that you're creating. And then there's just a little checkbox that says extend with my product info. That will actually prompt you to put in the login and password for your Merchant Center account. If you fail to do step 1, then you won't be able to do that. So you need to do the steps in the correct order. And then finally, the last step is to create what we call an ad group. And then that will allow you to add the promotional text. So for example, free shipping over $50 if you wanted to put that in. Then we come down to choosing how you would like to segment your products and set a bid, which is a maximum cost per click that you're willing to pay for a click on your ad. So in this case, you can see in the example that the selected option is to run ads for all of the products that are in the Merchant Center feed, and the bid is $1 per click. Another very common question that I get is, can I set different cost per click bids for different items? The reason why lots of people obviously want to know this question is in any retailer's inventory, there are going to be some products that are more expensive or have a higher margin and so on. And typically folks want to bid up to show those products and maybe bid down on some of the cheaper products. So you can definitely do this inside the AdWords account. And you do it by creating something called a product target, which is basically a rule that aligns to a percentage of the products in your Merchant Center feed. And then you can set a bid for each rule. So in the example here, for example, you can see where product type is equal to chopping boards, the CPC, or the cost per click bid, is 80 cents. So that's referring back to that attribute in the Merchant Center feed that was called product type. So it's saying, look for all of the things in my feed that are chopping boards, and for any product listing ad that's triggered for those products, use an 80-cent CPC bid. So product type is probably, I think, the most popular option in terms of setting these product targets, but you can set them, for example, for individual products. If there's one product that you really want to promote above others, you could do that. You can also set them based on condition, on brand, and then we have this very flexible option called AdWords labels. So you can add an extra attribute or extra column to your Merchant Center feed called AdWords _labels, and then you can put pretty much anything you like in there. So if you wanted to label something as being, part of the Christmas sale or part of the stock take sale or something like that, and then bid up for those, you certainly could. You just need to make sure that any product target you create matches back to items in your feed that are identified by that same rule. Okay, so for product listing ads, as with all Google advertising, we often get questions about how to optimize those ads for performance. So some tips here about optimizing your product listing ads. The first one is to try and make sure that all your products are shown one way or another. So whether that means having an all products target somewhere in there, or just making sure, for example, that if you have, say, chopping boards product target and cutlery product target, that covers all of your products as a combination. The second thing is to work on your data quality, and a lot of that will reference the stuff that I mentioned before about optimizing the feed. So making sure that you have all the recommended attributes, and keep subscribed to that Google Commerce blog for the latest updates on that data quality. Thirdly, you can improve the relevance, which means drive up the click-through rate of your product listing ads by testing new promo messages. For example, summer sale on now, or highlighting unique benefits like free shipping and so on. Within AdWords, there's something called the C-Search Terms Report, and that will actually tell you the searches that you showed on for your product listing ads. So you'll be able to see, for example, 6 times when somebody searched for bamboo chopping board, my product listing ad was shown. You may find in there that there are some words that are not as relevant. So maybe somebody has searched for, I don't know, commercial bamboo chopping board and you don't sell commercial ones. In that case, you could add commercial as a negative keyword to prevent your product listing ads from showing on that. And again, just generally improving the feed, so using very clear titles, making sure the images are good, and making sure that your prices are competitive. And then finally, what we talked about for breaking out the bidding. So create those multiple auto targets, those multiple product targets for different kinds of products. So whether it's, setting up a product type that says this one equals ovens, and for those I want to bid $2, or product type equals vacuum cleaners, and for those I only want to bid 50 cents. And then finally, it does help to keep your auto targets in one ad group. That way we'll use the specific bid, say the one for ovens if we have it, and then we'll use the all products bid as the default for everything else. So that just kind of keeps your product listing ads tidy. So we always like to see the real world application of these things. Here's a case study from a company currently using product listing ads, Babies Direct. For Babies Direct, product listing ads are driving 32% of their search conversions currently, and at a 33% lower cost per sale. And when we talked to them, what we found they most appreciated was just the ease. So when you have a very large inventory, creating search ads can be great in terms of ROI, but it can also be very time consuming. And product listing ads really makes that kind of easier to set up and run. And that's where we find a lot of folks really find the value in a very time poor day. Some other questions I get frequently are around the product listing ads incentive program. So as we move to this kind of paid model for Google Shopping going forward, we know for a lot of folks that means some big changes in the way they're kind of doing business online. So we've included some incentives to sort of help get people through. The first one, you may have received an email if you already had a merchant center as of December last year, giving you a $100 credit coupon code if you spend at least $25 on product listing ads. And then incentive number two, if you spend on product listing ads and include all of your products, we'll give you a rebate for 10% of your spend up until June. If you are eligible for both incentives, you can have both. So finally, just wrapping up with our presentation here before we move on to questions. If you need more help with product ads, or you have detailed questions about Google Shopping and how it relates to your business specifically, I highly recommend keeping up with that Google Commerce blog, or trying the Merchant Center help or the AdWords help. And then finally, if you want to speak to a human, you can call the number on your screen, which goes directly through to the Google Shopping Ads team. So that team only deals with shopping ads, not with AdWords in general. So they should have the kind of specialist expertise that you would need to discuss that in more detail. Okay, so we've come through to our Q&A. So if you have a question related to Google Shopping, if you could type it into the chat box now, and I'm going to hand over to Grant in another minute, and he's going to read out what we think are the most popular questions, and I'll try and answer as many live now on the call as I can. So if you have a question, please type it into that chat box now. Back to you, Grant, to introduce the questions.
No worries, Kate. Look, first of all, thank you for a fantastic and enlightening presentation. So it taught me a lot more about Google Shopping. I've been following it pretty closely, and I'm gathering from the presentations you've done already. I know you've been on the roadshow quite a bit lately. That the product feed and the listing of the product listings has been, one of the things that everyone's trying to get their head around. One of the things I saw the other day too, and you mentioned it earlier, was the promotional text. Is that available in the normal product feed at the moment, or does that require some customization?
So the promotional text, so the bit that says, for example, free shipping on orders over $50.
Yep.
It's actually the only part of a product listing ad that you add within the AdWords interface rather than within the feed. And the reason is because you kind of set it up to run across all your products rather than tying it to a specific line item about a product. So you put all your information, the title and the picture and so on, into the Merchant Center feed, but then the promotional text, you just add it quickly when you're creating the product listing ads within your AdWords advertising account.
Okay. All right, look, we've got a ton of questions queuing up here, so I'll run through them. First one is, are there any incentives for clients who have Google grants?
Ooh, that's a good question, actually. So Google Grants, for folks who don't know, is we provide a certain volume of free ads to people who meet some eligible charity requirements. So if you belong to a charity and that charity has an online store, so has e-commerce, then you could certainly create product listing ads as part of your standard Google Grants account. So in that case, we don't really provide an incentive, seeing as you're getting most of that traffic either free or at a discounted rate anyway.
Okay. Now, another couple of questions revolve around organic search. Someone's said, did Google just wipe out the SEO industry? But also on that, what are the organic benefits of Google Shopping as opposed to the paid options or the obvious paid benefits?
Yeah. So I do appreciate it's going to be a big change for a lot of folks, and believe me, we had a lot of discussion internally about doing this change. I don't think we've wiped out the SEO industry by any method, but for folks who were previously using Merchant Center feeds as a way of driving SEO traffic, there will no longer be any kind of organic traffic coming through. As is the case now and will continue to be the case in future, how you perform in a Google ad, including a product listing ad, won't affect your organic performance or vice versa. We keep them completely separate. But I do expect to see, for example, a lot of companies who perhaps did SEO start to move into helping folks with their product listing ads going forward. And one of the things that we were keeping in mind when we did this, and we certainly saw come through in the results in the US, is that Google Shopping used to get a very, very, very large volume of spam every day.
Right.
And so it was a little bit Wild West. And moving to this model has actually helped in that regard significantly. We found that the legitimate retailers are kind of, I guess, a bit more willing to pay for that traffic. And as a result, the overall experience has improved to the point where most of the guys in the US now are getting actually more traffic to their website than previously on the free and paid combined model.
Okay, so it could have organic benefits as long as you get the mix right.
I think for folks who are doing SEO, they'll be more focused on SEO in the kind of standard sense in terms of getting your actual website pages to rank well in organic, rather than SEO that's based on a Merchant Center feed, as anything you put in the Merchant Center now will only be triggered by a product listing ad.
Okay. All right. Moving on. What is this one? Can I have more than one ad group for my product ads? So can I have more than one ad group for my PLAs?
So you can. Typically, the only reason, you can have more than one ad group for your product listing ads. Typically, the only reason that you would want to do that is because you want to use different promotional text. So for example, let's say that you have some items where those items always have free shipping, and some items that don't ever come with free shipping. So in that case, you may have one ad group with a promotional text that says free shipping, and you would need product targets that restrict that to the products that have free shipping. And then in a second ad group, you could put all the items that don't have free shipping and use something else for the promotional text, lowest prices every day or whatever else you'd like to focus on. So you certainly can have more than one ad group. But typically the only reason to do it is because you want that different promo messaging. Otherwise, just for the sake of ease, it's probably easier to have one ad group but multiple product targets within that one ad group.
Dimitri asks, where can we find the full list of attributes to use in the upload feed?
Yep, that's a great question. So if you just search for Google Merchant Center Help, that will take you to the Merchant Center Help page. There's a link on there that says upload your feed. And when you click on that, it'll take you to a page that has all of the attributes. There'll be a little drop down at the top that specifies the country that you're targeting. I'm assuming for most people on this call that target country is Australia, but if you're an export advertiser, you can see what the feed attributes for each country, as they do vary a little bit.
Can the daily budgets be set differently for text search and for PLAs? So for AdWords and for PLAs?
Yes, yes. You can set different daily budgets for text ads and for product listing ads. And in fact, that's what we recommend that people do by keeping them in separate AdWords campaigns. So you might have one campaign called product listing ads, which contains all your product listing ads, and you would set one daily budget for that campaign. And then for your other regular text ad campaigns, you would have one or more additional campaigns, and you could set a separate daily budget for each of those.
What am I meant to put in the shipping tab in my feed when our shipping rates change for every order, depending on weight and size? So variable shipping, what do they put in that?
That's interesting. So I'm assuming in this case the question is related to there is a attribute in the Merchant Center feed where you can specify your shipping cost for something.
Yes.
For Australia, that's actually not required, but if you're targeting the USA, then you do need to specify that currently. If you have shipping costs that vary for each order but are based on a formula, you know, like if something is over a certain weight or something like that, there's actually a way to tell us what the formula is as part of your feed. And again, that's described in the Merchant Center Help Center. If in this case you're referring to the promotional text, the bit where I said it often says, you know, free shipping over $50, if it's really different for every order, then you probably not focus on that in the promotional text. You know, you talk about a sale being on or you know, some other unique selling point there rather than the shipping.
Okay. Custom products, how are they going to work on Google Shopping? So Glenn's asked, will Google factor in custom-made products in times to come, for example, window furnishing or custom frames?
That's a really good question. At the moment, we only have, I guess, the functionality to take something where the price is set. So we don't really have, I guess, a way to show a product where it doesn't really have a price until that's been negotiated, as it were. But it's not the first time I've heard the request, and it's certainly something that we're kind of thinking about, how can we make it more flexible in future. But at the moment, only fixed price products. So if you have something like, you know, pre-made window drapes or something, or curtain poles that have a fixed price, then you can put those in now. And for the rest, you know, stay tuned, and hopefully we'll have a better option for that kind of product in future.
Okay, an interesting question from Daniel. Are Google Shopping bid rates, do they compete with the standard AdWords bid rates for the same retailer or same business?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and they do compete in the same auction, as it were, but we allow you to show both a product listing ad and a standard text ad. So in that case, you can kind of have two bites of the cherry in terms of screen real estate,
Okay.
Which we don't let you show two standard text ads, but you can show both a product listing ad and a standard text ad. Typically, what I have seen for product listing ads currently is that the cost per click average tends to be slightly cheaper than what people are paying for standard text ads. And a lot of that is actually because they get a very high click-through rate, and AdWords actually rewards you if you're getting a high click-through rate with a lower cost per click.
How can I get my store to appear in the Any Store link in the left column of the Google Shopping page? That's from Laura.
So I assume we're talking about when you go to google.com.au/shopping, and let's say you do a search for hats, and then sometimes it has some stores down the left-hand side. When you sign up for a Merchant Center account, you tell us what your store name is. And so if we see a lot of results coming from a particular store, then we should display that store name on the left-hand side.
All right, look, I think we've only got time for one more. just let me pick one out here. There's quite a few. So just in regards to the product feed and the upload of pictures, Richard's asking, if you upload using a text file, do you include the photo in that file?
Oh, that's a good question. You don't actually include the photo, but you include the link to tell us where to get the photo.
Okay.
So there's an attribute in the feed called image_link, and that is like the link to the file name. It usually ends in .jpg or something like that, from where we can take the picture.
All right. So look, thanks once again, Kate. It also sounds like many of these questions too can be answered at the Merchant Center help. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Look, wonderful to have you do this webinar with us today, Kate, and I really appreciate it. We will be publishing this on Power Retail, and we'll also send out an email to those who have tuned in today with some other ideas for resources as well. But it is a hot topic, and we'll certainly be on top of it at Power Retail. And thank you again, Kate, and thank you everyone who attended today. Much appreciated, and hope you got a lot out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant.
No worries.